Good morning. It is May 5th, the Cinco de Mayo, Revenge of the 5th, the day after May the 4th be with you. And interestingly enough, I just read on the Facebook this morning, this day in 1970, the state police or National Guard fired upon the student population at Kent State University. And lots of things happen. And it's funny how we kind of forget, right, what happens.
Yes.
I know. I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, obviously not a good day in history for the United States, but hopefully it takes a new turn in a new. I have nothing. I got nothing for you. Hopefully we've improved a lot since 1970s.
I think we have in a lot of ways. Lots of improvement to go still, but I think we have. So let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about, because this has gone off the rails like 3 times now. So today, May 5th, yesterday, I think, or a couple days ago, Microsoft Teams team released the What's New in Microsoft Teams in April 2021. Thought it'd be a good episode to record while I've been struggling to do all the post-production on the ones we've recorded, which to our guests who've been waiting, I'm really, truly sorry for keeping you waiting. But in the meantime, a quick episode on what was released in April. So, Craig, as you looked through the blog, was there anything that really stood out of particular interest to you?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a short episode. Have a wonderful day.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yes. So one of the things that I had saw that I actually participated in and not used, but I liked the team meeting rooms has an automatically end and bring you back to the main meeting function.
Yes.
That was nice that, all of a sudden you got a countdown. Hey, 10 seconds left and you're going to be going back into the main room, because I know as a presenter and an organizer that sometimes it's felt like herding cats, right? When I got to get people out, they get in there in conversations and they're like, yeah, we'll be there in a minute. And then
who knows? I know that was actually one of the big competition points with like Zoom, for example. We did a big 300-person training with a third-party company, and they use Zoom. And one of the features they used is they'd tell you, be back from your breakout room in 15 minutes. But if you don't come back, we're going to make you come back anyway. And Zoom had that. So that the ability.
I have no idea what the Zoom is that you're talking about. So I'll just let you roll with that.
Back in my day, before Teams, we had something called Zoom. Anyway, so yes, I think that's a great feature. I'm glad to see that coming in. Also, I didn't realize you couldn't do this either, but the ability to reassign participants between breakout rooms.
I didn't know you could do that either. I've never tried, though. So
right. So we got the breakout room retention and then participant reassignment. So some interesting stuff coming on there. I also thought on the meeting space, continuing down that path, the ability to make meetings invitation only.
Yes,
so that if your meeting gets forwarded to somebody who wasn't on the original invitation, it actually treats them differently and they get put into the lobby instead of being able to join directly. I thought that was really great.
It should mark them as pariah. That's what it should say. Uninvited.
It could make them wear a scarlet tee.
Yes, it should give them a little icon. That's what I want emoticons next to them now. I'm going to submit a user voice.
Is the Teams team still using user voice? That's another thing that's happened in the last few months is Microsoft is moving away from user voice.
Yeah, they're moving it right into the Microsoft community thing that they have, the tech community. Microsoft. Yeah, I believe that's where it's moving. That's where the feedback is. But I just looked at user voice coincidentally on something that one of my coworkers had gotten asked and wasn't sure of. But so Teams has the ability to share with Outlook. So if you have something that you're working on and they wanted to turn that off because they felt that it was a little bit too easy to share then, right? So I'm not sure how that whole thing works, but you're either rolling that out or it's just hit general availability. So there's a user voice to turn that off and not let that that capability go. So you can have the option to do that, but it's not out there yet. So
interesting. So
yeah.
so Teams is still using user voice, which is nice. If you haven't been to user voice, we'll try to post the link here in the meeting notes. But user voice, I love user voice, and I'm really sad they're moving away from it. I hope the functionality they put into the tech community is similar. The idea that you can submit an idea, that people can vote on it, vote it up and down, and that the Microsoft product teams actually respond and give you feedback as to if this is going into the roadmap, when it does, when it'll be available. It's a really good interaction that I hope they find ways to keep going with.
Yeah, so they're trying to do the same thing in communities and just make it a little bit easier for them to manage and see, I think. So a little bit more visibility into it.
So coming back to Teams features for April, nice
Sorry.
little segue, nice little sidebar there. I thought this was also interesting. So improvements to audio permissions settings for attendees. So this, the ability for people to, the ability for presenters to lock down who can speak is huge, and that's been around for a little while, but now they're making it easier for presenters to allow people to unmute. So I think the way it used to work is you had a request to unmute, and then the presenter could give you permission, and then you unmuted. So it was an extra weird step. So last week at the M365 virtual marathon, which we both spoke at, separately, but we both spoke at it. They use Teams meetings this year. Last year, they used Teams live events for every session. This year, they use Teams meetings, which is nice because it gives you a lot more interactivity.
Yes.
But as a moderator for a half dozen or so sessions, it was very easy for me. What we did was we said, raise your hand if you want to talk. I'll give you permission and you can unmute, and that allowed us to have a nice queue and things like that. But just the fact that I was able to go and tell someone, hey, click on their button and give them permission to unmute, I thought that was really great. It kept interruptions down, and it let us moderate when we wanted people to interrupt.
Yes, because there's occasionally that person that just wants to ask 1,000 questions and comment on everything. So it's nice to do that and still allow other people to ask questions.
So Craig, what did you talk about?
I talked about nothing to do with Teams, but kind of, but
likewise.
Yes, application ALM for the Power platform. So
Okay.
Power Apps and Power Automate, application lifecycle management,
Cool.
which so this is the next generation of what I think is coming. Sidebar here, but there's a big need and a lot of people are thirsty for this information because now we're giving the power of users to create apps and workflows, right? And then we got to marry that with what the enterprise is doing. So we're adding a whole lot more users, developers, of course, so to speak, into our environment. Right now, we got to make sure that our governance is better. And a lot of customers are struggling with how to manage that. And I say why I think that's the best next thing coming is we've already seen them fold Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate apps right into Teams, so you can use them there. Dataverse for Teams is making a big push with the database, bringing that into Teams so that I can use Dataverse now, a free version, with only 2 gigabytes worth of data, but I don't need a whole lot of data when I'm in a team, but for free, right? So before anything I want to use the database for, I got to pay. Now it's free. So that's powerful in and of itself, but so let's go back into history, take a step back. What are the conversations we were having 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can move to the cloud. It's safe. It's secure. Then 3 to 4 years ago, it was, okay, we're got a foot in SharePoint Online. How, Skype for Business is up there. Teams is kind of coming out, right? So what is this Teams thing and what are we playing with there? And then bam, the pandemic hit and everybody said we got to work from home. So now it's Teams, right? So it was Teams. How do we get there? How do we get there fast? How do we govern it? And I'm seeing a lot more conversations starting this year is we're there. So one, how do we leverage Teams fully? So what are the things that we're doing? What are the features that we still want to see? So that's still being developed out. But I am talking to law firms, pharmaceutical companies. I'm talking to a large manufacturing company, and they want to know how do they automate all these processes now. Like, hey, we're up here. How do we take advantage of everything else that's in Microsoft 365? So,
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I talked about. Jay, what did you talk about?
So I did 2 sessions. Actually, did I do 3 sessions? I did 3 sessions. 2 of them were introductory to Microsoft 365. So believe it or not, there are still people who are just getting into the space.
Yep.
They might be technologists, they might be business users, they might be decision makers. And actually, the 2 presentations we did were geared in the separate directions. The first one was for technologists who are just starting to get into M365. How to set up a test tenant, what do you need to know about connecting to Active Directory, and what is Azure Active Directory, and all the basics on the technology side. The other one was geared towards business users and decision makers. Um, and what it really was is it was geared towards the technologists who are supporting those people. So it was, what do you, the technologist, tell the business user and the decision maker about this platform? What's important to them that they are just getting introduced to? So that was 2 of our sessions, very beginner level, but just they're topics that still have to happen for a lot of organizations. The other presentation was a panel with myself and Joy Apple and Sharon Weaver, and we talked about information architecture,
Nice.
modern information architecture for Office 365. It was a lot of fun. We started off with a quick conversation about what is information architecture to kind of set the table, and then we opened it up and we just took questions from the audience, which was made difficult when the chat got turned off for a little while. They had a small hiccup at the beginning of the conference, and they had to turn chat off across the board.
Wow.
But yeah, it was good. It allowed us to take questions and answer and help people understand how to consider information architecture in Microsoft 365, because it's very different than what we used to do 5 to 10 years ago in SharePoint on premises.
You're not still building the pyramid?
Yes, stay away from the pyramid. The architecture, my friends, it's flat. So anyway, boy, did we go off on a tangent there. That's twice.
Yes.
What else came out in April, Craig?
You had talked about, so I don't want to start it because you had talked about it and how much you like this, but adding the ability to add a tab to Teams in the provisioning process.
Okay, so
because I got a story with that. That's a tangent, so I'll go.
Yeah, so listen, if you're into templates or not, if you're not into templates in Teams, but you have a provisioning process, then come talk to me offline, and I'll help you understand the value of templates in that provisioning process. But that aside,
so if you want to talk to Jay offline, his cell phone number is sorry.
I can edit that out. So the idea here is, if you're going to push a template out, one of the problems that's been around for a while is the tabs. You could preset your tabs, but you couldn't preset what happened in them. So the prime example is the website tab. The website tab is hugely powerful in bringing things from outside of Teams into your Teams interface. You use it all the time, but in a templating process, you could put the website tab into your template, but you couldn't pre-configure the URL that loaded in it. So you were just putting a blank website tab, and then the team owner had to fill it out. So it's silly that it wasn't there to begin with, but I'm very glad to see that now the website tab, you can pre-configure it in your template. So if you have, for example, a project management team template, then when the new project management team stands up, you can pre-configure it so that the let's say you do task management instead of in Planner, you do task management in something like Jira, which is often used for support desks or for product development. So you can pre-configure it to load Jira in that website tab instead of just being a blank website tab. Really good stuff. Jira might not have been a great example because Jira has a Teams app, but that's a different story altogether. Thanks for bringing that up, Craig.
You're welcome. So my tangential story was kind of
number 3.
I don't know how I did. I'm trying to figure out how I did this exactly, but I know you can do this. So I had a customer who wanted to create a team, and they wanted to use it like a landing page. So we created that tab, and then we surfaced a SharePoint page to that
Yep.
tab, right? So we had the SharePoint side behind it, and then we customized it the way that we might want to do it, which was pretty cool. But their question was, or the problem was that they wanted it to be a landing page. So if you go into Teams, I go to that team, I go to that channel, right? Then what's the first one that comes up? The posts, and then the files, and then there's other things. So what we were able to do is add that in as a separate tab, but then copy a link so that if I clicked on the link, it takes me directly into the Teams client into that tab. So that is how we got around that. But so that is something I would still like to be able to say that I could set a primary tab in Teams as so identify that and not always have it have to be the post tab. But yeah, so that was kind of cool that we were able to do that. And that was an interesting conversation because that was a business user who just happened to talk to their account person who said, I want to do this. And her IT people were too busy to help her with that. So it was somebody who had not normally ever talked to us, like an engineer, right?
Right.
It was a whole different conversation, but she was awesome. She was a lady she actually was in Spain. So, because that's where the corporate headquarters for this company was. And she, like, the next time I talked to her, she's like, oh, I did all this stuff. So it was like, we just taught her what to do. And then she just had clarifying questions. So it was pretty cool.
It is pretty amazing that once I say this constantly, if you engage with the end users and show them not just what to do, but the value that comes with it, a lot of them just get it and immediately start running with it. So that's a great side story.
Yes, cool.
As opposed to a sob story. And if you can't tell the difference, I apologize. I am clogged from all my sinuses are a disaster thanks to allergies.
Yeah.
Lots of new. I'm going to just keep moving. Lots of new devices coming from Microsoft specifically. Headphones and webcams and conference speaker phones, all Teams certified. So we had an episode about what Teams certified meant a while back, but the long story short, it means that the device manufacturer has the ability to update the software in the items so that it can meet new features as new features come to Teams, all sorts of stuff like that. What are you laughing at me for?
Well, one of the other topics that we wanted to include was alerts from Windows 10 and how that works with Teams.
Oh, yeah.
And I said that I don't like it because when I'm in meetings like this, they'll just start popping. And then I don't know if that gets picked up, like the tone gets picked up, but I just had five things ping in my right-hand corner.
Oh, really?
So then I looked down at it, right? So that's taking your eye off the camera, and it was just one was not from, a couple of them weren't from Teams, but they were Outlook-related stuff. But sometimes I am not a big fan of that popping up in the right-hand corner, and especially if I'm trying to do a full-screen meeting, right, and participate in the chat, because it always covers where the chat is.
Yep.
So where I would send a message.
So that's interesting. So, okay, so weird transition, but I understand since it was happening to you at that moment. For those of you trying to follow what we're saying, the Tap, which is the ring I'm in, and Microsoft have had this feature for a while, but you can now go into Microsoft Teams settings and say if you want to use the native Teams notifications, which is what it came with, or if you want to use the more recently released Windows 10 notifications, which is nice, Craig's little anecdote aside, because it not only puts the pop-up notification in the same spot that all of your normal Windows 10 notifications go, but it actually puts the notifications in the notification center. So if you push the little notification button in the bottom right corner of your screen, or bottom left if you have a screen set up like I do, then you can look at your Teams notifications just like your just like your password notifications and your email notifications and your OneDrive, all of those showing up in the same location. So I think that's really cool. I also think it's cool because you can turn off your notifications using focus mode. Mine's currently set to priority only. So it gives you some really cool things, but Craig, I understand that.
Yeah, for those of us lazy who don't like to go into focus mode, forget about that. So
fair enough.
We got to work on it.
All right. What else has come up? silly things. Oh, no, I mean, silly or not, we use custom backgrounds, so I can't really call them silly, but custom backgrounds and emojis and GIFs are now in Android and iOS. So I guess that's actually pretty cool stuff there.
Did I see? I don't know if it's on the list, but they are adding. I know I saw that it's on the roadmap for more emojis.
I have seen that more emojis are coming. Yes. Which I honestly like. I understand that people roll their eyes. In fact, you, dear listener, might be rolling your eyes now. But I really do think that the more we engage the GIFs and the emojis and the memes into a tool like this, and I've been saying it forever because I've been doing social enterprise stuff for a decade. I think yeah, I see you shaking, rolling your eyes at me with your emoji in the chat there, Craig. But I do think it's beneficial.
I need that one elsewhere. That one I can't find in someplace else I was trying to do. I can't remember, but I wanted that emoji and I can't find it. So the emoji I just sent to Jay is the guy who was slapping his head and shaking his.
Yep. Although interestingly, the emoji that appeared in the chat, and I wish I had screenshot this, and the emoji that appeared in the Windows 10 notification pop-up, because you're a priority, you're in my priority list apparently, which should change. They were different. One was the person holding their hand up, and the other one is the yellow circle emoji holding. Anyway, I thought that was weird. All right, I digress. There's a few other things, some things for frontline workers, like enhancements to task publishing, enhancements to Shift, Microsoft shifts and permissions. I thought this one was good. The time clock APIs. The time clock in Shift now has APIs that you can connect to your corporate time tracking application. So some really cool stuff to further enhance and ingrain the technology into your already existing policies. And with that silence, I'll transition to kind of our wrap. There's a handful of things that have come out on the government side. Again, I'm in the government space, so this is hugely important to me. But if you look at these blog articles and scroll all the way down, there's often content specific to various verticals. In this case, in the government vertical for people in the GCC, GCC High, or DoD tenants. A handful of interesting features that have been in the commercial space for some of them for a while. You have new meeting options. I thought this was really cool. The invite-only meeting options that came out in commercial in April also came out in GCC. The enhanced meeting creation and expiration policies that came out in commercial also available in GCC. The audio permissions that we talked about also available in GCC. You can see what I'm getting at is how quickly
available in GCC.
I am not also available at GCC, but you can see how much Microsoft has improved the pace at which the GCC gets new features alongside commercial. So really important stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that I know you hear it a lot more than I do, but it's always when I'm talking to a GCC client, why are you telling us about this stuff that we can't have?
So. Yeah. I can't say this enough. If you're going to support the GCC, GCC High, or DoD, you have to understand, and this isn't scolding for you, I'd say the same thing to my engineers who support public sector. You have to understand the differences. You have to be able to speak to what is available today, is it on the roadmap, and when will it be released? Or you have to be very clear that, hey, I'm telling you about something that may or may not come to you. Because there's nothing more frustrating than getting super excited about Craig sneezes and then the sneezes not being available in the GCC. And with that very weird statement,
before I sneezed.
Mostly, I really hope somebody is listening to this in podcast mode and not video mode, so they have no idea that Craig muted and then sneezed, and I was just being a silly. That's it. That's the month. There's a couple other things in there. Minor.
Silly. That was just anticlimactic. And I was thinking goose. I was going to add goose. Being a silly goose because we're like 12.
Nope. I'm not a goose, Craig. I'm a Jay. So with that, my friends, that was the month of April. We do have 2 episodes in the hopper that I plan to push out every other week, starting with this one. And Craig, I think we talked about this. I'm going to aim every other Tuesday to have a new episode live. So it'll be this semi-week in teams is the new name of the podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to change that. So really, what's the most important thing that we did never really discuss is yesterday was May 4th, and I know that you're a big Star Wars geek.
Yes.
And I was too busy and too tired to care. So I hear there was a new series released on Disney
The
Plus.
Bad Batch. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Of course I did. 75 minutes with my kids. We kept the kids up late so they could watch it after dinner. The Bad Batch follows a series of clones. They are defect clones, so to speak, with air quotes. They are, and it starts literally at the end of the Clone Wars. So it's really interesting. You get to watch the execution of Order 66, which was surprising to me, and I didn't know if my 8-year-old was ready for that. But you get to watch the execution of Order 66. You get to watch this group of clones.
Isn't that like where they killed all the Jedi kids?
Yeah, I was trying not to go there. You get to watch this
I get
group
to watch
of clones.
It. You're kind of a little psychopath there. So
anyway, you get to watch this group of clones not receive the order, and you get to see their experience in seeing the Empire go bad. Seeing the Republic go bad and turn into the Empire. And in that 75 minutes, not to give anything away because it only came out 24 hours ago, in that 75 minutes, you experience this emotional turn of the Republic to the Empire, and what does this group do, and who are they? And it was really good. It's cartoon. I gotta say this, there are people who don't watch the Star Wars cartoons because it's for kids. That's a load of hooey. The Star Wars cartoons, while sometimes, depending on when they came out, were graphically, unimpressive, the stories that come with them, if you are a Star Wars nerd like I am, the stories that come with them are actually really good stories. And they complement the movies and they complement the shows. Anyway, really good stuff. Also yesterday, if you're a Disney World person,
we have never talked about Disney World on a podcast, so this is new territory for us.
The new Star Wars hotel got a handful of announcements yesterday, and it is now officially on the Disney World Experience app as launching in 2022. Really cool stuff there. I can't wait. That's not
going to be booked or anything for the next 5 years.
What?
That's not going to be booked for the next 5 years.
No, I mean, I'm not going to be able to get to it forever, but the fact that it's going to be there is really cool.
Yeah, no, I know.
So that's it. I think we've gone on a tangent long enough. That's number 4. Tangent number 4.
That could have a vacation club, and you just buy the vacation club, you could be able to stay there. That would. Other than that, I think
if they do that, I'm going to be so mad.
What?
If they so Disney does have the Disney Vacation Club.
Yes, I know. I've stayed there.
And well, it's a club you can buy into. Just it's a timeshare. And so where my wife and I are Hilton Vacation Clubs members, and if they were to turn the Disney, oh my gosh, if that became a Disney Vacation Club thing, I would be so mad. Because
well, they have to. It's got to be part of it.
No, doesn't have to.
It does.
I prefer it not be, because actually it does.
It doesn't.
As long as it's available through RCI. RCI allows you to kind of swap vacation club stuff. If it's available through there, I'll be happy.
So I know, like, you can stay at that. You did stay at the whatever
Kidani Village.
Yeah, well, that's part of the Disney Vacation Club too. So it's different floors. They have different floors for the vacation.
Yes.
My brother was a member, still is, and I've gone using his points a couple times.
Cool. All right. Well, this week in Disney Vacation Club is coming to an end.
I bet we could get more. I bet we could get more visitors for that.
If you've lasted this long in the episode, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
If you are not a subscriber and you want to hear Craig and Jay rant off on tangents more than actually talk about teams, please make sure you subscribe, click for notifications, get those notifications in your subscription bar, and come back every other Tuesday starting whenever this episode comes out. Have a good day, Craig.
Bye.